All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Value Vegan Podcast. Today we have Sophia DeSantis from Veggies Don't Bite, and we're super excited to learn more about her and her journey and some of her philosophies and tips for others as well. So thanks so much for joining us.
I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So to get started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your entire journey with healthy eating and what that kind of looked like and what you're doing now?
Okay, so actually, my journey really started a long time ago, about 10 plus years ago. After I got married, my husband and I started trying to have kids, and I had a miscarriage. And after that miscarriage, I wasn't able to get pregnant for an entire year. And that was kind of at the time I was 30. So my doctor's like, well, at your age, you wait a year, just try whatever. It ended up that I had some pretty bad fertility issues. And for about 3+ years, we went through medical doctors and natural doctors and naturopaths and everything you can think of. I ended up having my first on my fourth round of IVF, but in between my third and fourth round, I saw a naturopath, and my husband called her my voodoo doctor because she had all these like vials of things. And one of the things she did then was adapt my diet a little bit. And she took me off certain things and had me eat certain things. And pretty much the help of her and my doctors like changed my body. And all my blood tests showed it, because when you go through fertility, you really have like, you're followed closely. Like your blood work is done every 2 days. Like it's crazy. So on my fourth round, after I'd done 6 months with her, my doctor called me personally, and he's like, something has changed. I don't know what it is, but your levels are totally different. And that was the round I got pregnant. And all my results were like he told me, he's like, if I did not have you as a client, like for this whole entire 3 years, I would think you were a whole different person just with your levels. So that
Wow.
was my first indication that food and diet and things you do like really can affect you. And then fast forward 2 years, I had my second child. My first two are about a year apart. Second one kind of came really quickly, naturally. We didn't do anything, just happened very fast. And when I gave birth to him, he was about like maybe 5 months old. And my husband came to me and said, I want to go plant-based. And I was like, I honestly looked at him and I laughed. And I was like, what? He had really bad heart issues. So he had some high blood pressure, cholesterol, but like to the point where his medication that he'd been on his entire adult life wasn't working anymore. And his cardiologist is vegan. And he told my husband, he's like, look, like no pressure. I can totally find a different med for you. We can play around, see if they work. But just so you know, I deal with some clients through dietary changes. So if you're curious, watch this documentary, which was Forks Over Knives, and talk to me. He was so no pressure, which I think is the key when it comes to these kinds of things, especially with men, I feel like. And so my husband did watch it, I guess. And I remember I was laying in bed with the baby, and I remember like he came like right in this bed, like it was on this side right here. And he just looked at me. He's like, I want to change my diet. I want to go plant-based. And I honestly thought he was crazy because he's Italian. He's like meat and potatoes guy. And so I looked at him, he's like, I'm serious. He told me, he said, I feel so crappy every single day that I can't do it anymore. I need a change. And my doctor says, this is the change that can help. And so I was like, all right, I'm a super like organized, like research person. So anytime I do anything, I have to research it. So I said, it was September that this happened. And I said, give me the month of October to research and to play around and to just experiment, because it's really like a new cuisine. Like if you don't cook Indian food, you don't know how to cook Indian food. Like you have to practice, right? Like it's really the same thing. So I took the entire month of October, and then November 1st of 2012, we did a 21-day elimination diet. So we got the idea from a variety of little things. Like there was a book that we looked at. And there also, my husband's in finance, and he just through his business school and stuff, he knows the concept of it takes 21 days to form a habit. And that's like all over business, 21 days, all over everywhere. So we decided 21 days. Let's just do it for 21 days and see what happens. So we eliminated gluten. We eliminated animal products. We eliminated caffeine. we eliminated alcohol, we eliminated sugar. So all those 5 things. Most of that was pretty easy for us. Neither of us drink coffee, so that wasn't a problem. The alcohol was probably the hardest for me because I was a new mom to 2 kids, and I like my cocktails. But I was like, okay, I can do it for 21 days. Ironically, day 22 was Thanksgiving that year. So we went 21 days, and we're like, we'll see what happens. And Thanksgiving was at his family's house, so it was an interesting transition into our new diet because we like show up at Thanksgiving and I had made something because we decided at the end of the 21 days, we're like, we both feel really, really good. Like I just had a baby and it was great for me. Like postpartum is really hard for me. So with the hormones and I started to feel a little bit better. Like you're still like, I don't know about other people. And I know like social media is full of these women that just pop out babies and look amazing. But for me personally, I'm a small person. Like I'm really fit and small, like naturally I work out a lot and I'm very happy with how I look, but post baby, it took me a whole year to get back to where I was. Like everyone's different, but for me, it was an entire year from birth to like where I actually started getting my like old body back, I guess you can say. And so I felt like at halfway through that, doing this really helped. And we felt so good that we're like, okay, let's just continue. And we decided to continue in a very relaxed way. Like back then, we still like, and even now we're not super crazy, but back then we were even more relaxed. Cause I was just learning, I was just learning all of it. And, so we showed up at Thanksgiving with this, like, we're not eating any of your stuff, but we brought some stuff. It was really funny. So that's kind of how it all started. And in 3 months, my husband had completely cured himself.
Wow.
Like 0 medication, 0 anything. And he'd lost 30 pounds.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. He hasn't been on medication since. And this is my son that had just been born in February of that year, just turned 7. So this was in 2012 and it's 2019. So and all this time, he's never been on medication again. And even the times that his blood pressure is elevated because he's stressed, and it's not even that elevated, it's like still on the low end of what he ever had medicated. So even then, like it's not even like a big deal. He can just feel himself getting stressed sometimes, but that'll happen to anybody. So It was life-changing for him. And I went along with the ride. People ask me like, well, you don't have to be that way. And I think I'm probably more relaxed than he is because I don't have a very, very real, scary health reason to do it. I just feel better. Still, like if you were married to an alcoholic, you wouldn't be drinking alcohol at home, So I kind of look at it like that. Like he's my husband. Our kids were little. It wasn't that challenging to do. And I do it in support of him. And I feel like if I wanted to eat something, I would. Like, I don't feel like he, controls me. I just, I think I started in support and I did most of the cooking. So if it wasn't for me, I'll be honest, not to pat myself on the back, but if it wasn't for me, there's no way he would be able to do this.
Yeah. Awesome. Tell us a little bit about what it was like in the beginning. Like what kinds of stuff were you making?
Gosh, I am such a different cook now. It's funny. And just like anything, the more you do something, the better you get at it. Now I can whip out a meal to like satisfy anybody. That is a challenge for me. Like, oh, you don't think you can eat good plant-based stuff? Come on over. Let me make yourself a meal that you're going to, your pants over. And it's true. But back then it was more like the roasted veggies with different grains. And, I tried the sauces I made back then were like, back then they were good, but now I look at them, I'm like, oh gosh, no, mine are so much better. It was just very beginner type stuff. And we were never, the thing with us, and I'll be honest, and even today, I'm super picky about like, I don't do fake meats. I don't do a lot of fake cheeses. Like, I just don't like the processed, like vegan food out there, I guess you can say. It's just it's not for my palate. It's not my thing. I was a very healthy eater before. Like I ate meat and stuff like that, but I was healthy, like we didn't eat a lot of processed foods before. We didn't eat a lot of fried foods. We didn't eat fast food. So it's not like I was coming from a healthy place. I grew up with home cooked meals, and it wasn't like for us. So to eat a lot of these fake stuff that's out there that's processed, yes, it's vegan, but we do it for health reasons. And so that's like, I always ask people, like, you need to find your why. You need to find your why as to why you're doing this. And if you don't have a why or a meaningful why, it's not going to be a lifestyle. It's going to be a fad you go through. And that's with anything. Like, ask yourself, why? And my why is my husband. And so that's what keeps us going. Like some people's whys are ethical reasons. They do it for the animals, and that's a why that keeps you going. But for someone when you ask why, if it's just somebody that's like, doesn't really have a good reason, or a reason that's inside of them that really is meaningful, it's just going to be another one of these fad diets that you see out there. And that's what they are, and even all these diets that are going around, some people do them for medical reasons, and that's their why. But a lot of people do it to like, oh, I'm just going to lose some weight. And yeah, I think when we transitioned, my husband lost a good amount of weight. He was never overweight, but he's 6'4". And so, as men get older, they gain a little bit in their belly area. So he definitely lost quite a bit, because he wasn't eating. I mean, people don't realize how much, like, how many calories like dairy has, especially, like the meats. If you're eating lean meats, it's not so bad. But if you're eating burgers and stuff like that, like, it's just a lot of calories. And so he was just filling those calories with vegetables and, those kinds of things. So he lost a good amount of weight.
Awesome. So going back to the why, tell us a little bit about the why behind your blog, and like where in that process did that kind of come in?
So obviously both of us love food. Like I will not eat something just because it's vegan. Like if I had a choice between this like super gross, like vegan meal and a really delicious meal that might have some non-vegan stuff, I'll take the delicious meal any day. Like I just can't. I'm a foodie. I love food. I love cooking. I love cooking good food. So all of our old favorites, I pretty much started the process of making them whole food and plant-based. Some of my older recipes are not, I don't think, as great. I need to redo some of them because I've learned so many tips and tricks and things for textures. But I started doing that the first year of our diet change. That's kind of what I started to do. And slowly and I was learning more, and slowly people were like, oh my gosh, this is so good. How does this not have dairy? Like I made this, Alfredo-y type dish once. And I was like, I don't know. I just learned, you learn ways to do it. And slowly people started asking me, they're like, oh, write down your recipes. Oh, and someone says like, you should write a blog. And I'm like, I hate writing. I'll never write a blog. Why? Writing was my least favorite thing growing up. Between writing and history, I hated them. I was like an art, math, science person. Those are my things. And I am very math science oriented, but I'm actually also really artistic, which is I'm an enigma in my family because that's both sides of the brain.
Yeah.
And usually you're stronger in one side, but I'm extremely strong in both. I did a lot of art growing up. I used to watercolor and things like that, but I also am very math and science, which I think is why I love cooking, because cooking is a science, but it's also an art.
Right.
So I started really getting into it, and I was making most of our meals because at that time we were really working on getting my husband healthy. And so we didn't go out a ton. Now we go out a ton more, but eventually I just like, all right, everyone's asking me for my stuff all the time. I guess I'll start a website. Actually, no, I said I was going to start with a Facebook page. That's how I promised my husband I wouldn't dive into this big website thing. And I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. When I had my second child, I was a teacher for 14 years. Actually, that's my career. That's what I'm trained in. I have a master's in education. So when I had my second child, my husband was traveling every week for work. I had 2 kids that were 1 and under. And that school year, I decided to retire. So I was home. And like I tell people, I kind of was a stay-at-home mom failure because I always wanted more. Like I'm not a good person that just sits still. Not that stay-at-home moms sit still. I was busy as oh my gosh, with 2 kids under 1, I was totally crazy. But I wanted more. I guess I wanted something for just me. and I've always been that way. Like I'm an independent, like I'm not the mom that gives herself up for her kids. And I've never been that mom. I can see how people do that. It's very easy to lose yourself for your children. But I wasn't worried about me doing that because I took my alone time. I went out with my girlfriends, like from day one. Like my baby was like a month old the first time. I was like, bye, see ya, you're its dad. You can figure it out. And I didn't have those worries like a typical, I don't know if it's because I tried for so long that I was uber prepared, like mentally.
Right.
But I needed something for just me. And I decided the website might be a good idea, something that I could be creative in. And so I started with a Facebook group, and 4 days later, I think it was, or maybe it was a week later, I told my husband, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to need to do the website. He was like, what? So I closed myself off in a room for like 3 days, and I was like, bye. Time to go create a website. And so that's how it happened. It was crazy.
Nice. That is awesome. So
yeah. And that was in 2013.
Got it. Wow. So it's been a while.
Well, it was end of 2013. So really I just closed 5 years.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about like some of your philosophies around like having a healthy lifestyle, but also kind of being flexible and not being like super hard on yourself, and like raising kids with like this healthy relationship to food. Tell us a bit more about that.
So I kind of learned that when I started going through fertility. So I'm still a type A, like organized, like I'm still who I am. However, I feel like I used to be way more stress related. Very much more type A. And when I started going through fertility, a lot of what I think affected me was the stress around me. I was teaching and I loved my job. I had an amazing job, but there was a lot of stress around us because I worked at a school that they were constantly saying that they were maybe going to close the school and disperse all the teachers. And it was a lot of turmoil around it for years. And that overall stress, I think, affected me. And then my stress of like the control and not knowing what was going to happen was really hard on me. So I think part of my journey with going through fertility is I really did learn to let go a little bit, because those people that have gone through fertility that understand the process realize that you have to let go. Like with fertility, it's this thing that is really hard. It's the most challenging thing, one of the most challenging things I've ever been through. And you really learn to change a little bit. You learn to let go. I saw acupuncture throughout my journey. I saw, my like naturopath, like my holistic nutritionist. And a lot of it taught me a lot of skills to let go a little bit. And I also learned a lot about myself and how stress affects me, like really bad. I definitely have anxiety for sure. And I get affected very easily by stress. And so as I've become older, I'm turning 42 in July. And as I become older, I've learned what I need, what I can't deal with, techniques to help me, and things that I avoid. And one of those things that I've learned about myself is that I am not good at having to do something 100%. Like I'm not good with those parameters. Like it gives me a lot of anxiety and it gives me a lot of stress. I think it's the fear of failure. I'm a perfectionist by nature. And I'm learning, like I have a business coach who has helped me with my business the last 4 months. And one of the things she's helping me learn is about perfectionism, and first of all, admitting it and knowing you are a perfectionist and realizing that brings a lot of stress. And that has to do with our diet and food as well. So my husband's the same way, not as bad as me. And I don't think he admits it as much as I do. But my children also are a product of us, and we're very similar. So my children are similar, and my oldest has diagnosed anxiety. I see it in a little bit in all my kids. And so we decided that if we're doing this, if our why is our health, your health is what you put in your body, but your health is also your mind and what you surround yourself with. So for us, what is best for us and what is best with our family is to not worry about it. At home, I obviously cook a ton of plant-based stuff because everything I do at home is what I put on my blog. Like I'm constantly cooking, constantly making new recipes up, constantly testing recipes, adapting old recipes to my new skills and the new way I cook, and it's constant. So at home, we're like 99% plant-based. And I say 99% because my middle son is very picky, and he has one cheese that he likes, like regular dairy cheese, and I buy it for him because that's what he eats on things sometimes, and it's not worth the fight. I tried to fight it for a long time, and I'm like, whatever, eat your darn cheese. And then people come over and bring snacks, and so that's why I say 99%. When we go out, we try not to stress. You know, like for me, I know there's things that affect me. Like as I get older, I'm having some issues with grains, and I definitely cannot eat too much dairy now. Like now that I've cleaned it out of my system, I can have a little bit here and there, and it's not a big deal. But if I would never order like Alfredo at a restaurant. Like I would be so sick. My body could not handle that. But like if I order a veggie burger and it has like cheese in it, I don't stress about it. Same with my husband. Like if we have a lot of veggie burgers out there, they don't know, even though you can, but they think that you need egg as a binder, which you do not. But I've told a few chefs that, but if there's a veggie burger on the menu and I feel like eating a burger, I'm going to get the veggie burger. I don't care if there's something else in it. You know, to me, it's not a big deal.
The bun and everything, right?
Right. I don't stress about the bun. I don't stress if our French fries are cooked in the same oil as something else. Like those are the little things that we choose not to stress about, because for us, it's just the stress would affect us, and our why is our health, and the stress would affect our health. So it's counterproductive. So you have to decide, like some people's why, like if your why is an ethical why and it's for the animals and it stresses you out to know you've eaten something that may have touched something that touched animal products, by all means, like make sure that that doesn't happen if that's your stress. But for us, you know, and same with my kids, I don't want my kids to grow up with anxiety, with food anxiety related with food. Like if they see food, it's a natural Pavlovian instinct. Like if your kids are constantly stressed about something, it's going to be a trigger. And I don't, you know, speaking psychologically, I was a psych major in college. A lot of eating disorders are caused, not to say that, and don't misconstrue me, I'm not saying all kids that have vegan diets or plant-based diets could have an eating disorder. Absolutely not. I'm saying my kids who have anxiety in general, they have anxiety, especially my oldest. If anxiety is paired with food, it potentially could cause a problem in the future. Right. And I am trying to avoid that because I don't want my kid to see food and instantly get anxious. We teach our kids, our kids say they're vegetarians and they're amazing advocates. Like when they eat lunch at school, they eat lunch once a week at school. They always say, is that vegetarian? I'm a vegetarian. Like they've been offered things before and they've always asked, like, I don't eat meat. Does that have meat in it? And they're great. They know the knowledge and they have the power. And one day they're going to make their own decision. Honestly, you know, people that think their kids are 100% going to follow what they teach them are living in the clouds. Let's be real. Like your kids will do what they decide to do when they're adults.
Right.
And I want to lay a healthy foundation. And we explain to them why we eat this way, why daddy has a heart that can't have certain things. And just like people with diabetes cannot have sugar, you know, our dad can't have animal products because it affects his heart, and you're a product of your dad. So you potentially have that same issue. We want you to feel good when you're an adult. If you're raised this way, when you're an adult, if you eat animal products and you start feeling terrible, you know why.
Right. Right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been very useful. We're going to start wrapping up here. So if people want to check out your blog, check out more of your work, your recipes, where can they do that? Where can they find you?
So I'm a hopeless romantic Instagram user. I'm always on there. I love it. I'm on stories all the time. I don't post the feed as much. I post the feed like 2 to 3 times a week, but I'm always in my Instagram stories. You can follow my day from my kid meltdowns to what I'm eating to recipes that I'm sharing on my stories all the time. I also try and post to my blog twice a week. So it's either a brand new recipe, or I do work with a lot of brands that I love, which I love to do. That's one of my favorite things. So I'm always making recipes with great brands around that you could find, posting them. And I also have a membership site that I just started, which I'm really excited about, which I help people bring plants into their life in a non-stressful way. So all of those places.
Awesome. And you can send those links to me and we'll put them all here so people can access them. So thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.